Hi everybody, I'm Rocky Aldridge, and I'm making this video for my Communications 210 class on the topic of interpersonal communications taught by Dr. Ramos at Tacoma Community College. Now, in this video, this is going to be my mini lecture on the topic of nonverbal communication. Now, to begin this video, I'm going to ask the question of what exactly is nonverbal communication, and I'll answer that by just saying, the name is relatively self-explanatory, I'd say. We're talking about anything that we as humans are able to convey to another, like any message that we are able to get across to another person without the use of coded words. So this includes like your basic gestures, and I apologize, a fair warning, I have a tendency to talk with my hands, so just keep that in mind. But that's included in the bubble of nonverbal communication, how we use our hands to complement what we're saying. One of the most important things that makes up nonverbal communication is just facial expressions. We as humans have 43 muscles in our face that all work together in various ways, either while expanding or contracting, to produce a certain expression that either conveys that we're happy with a smile and our eyebrows raised, or we're angry with our eyebrows down and just, we're furious. Finally, and the one that people don't typically remember when it comes to nonverbal communication is the tone of voice with which we say something. So not what we say, but how we say it. Now, in this example, like an example that would just be, you're really angry, so you raise your voice and it's very stern. Or, you just kind of lower your voice and you're very soft-spoken if you're, feeling sad maybe. All of that is included in that sphere of what exactly nonverbal communications is. Now, in this video, I'm going to cover the 6 major functions of nonverbal communication, and that starts with repeating, what's known as repeating. Now, with repeating, it's probably the one that everybody can kind of relate to universally, and I'll use an example. If I say was visiting a town in the United States that I had never been to before, but before I had arrived, I had read about this fantastic cafe online. And I just needed to go to that cafe, but I had no idea where to go. I would be inclined to ask somebody for directions to get to that location. Now, as the person who receives the direction, who provides the directions to the person asking, when they say, oh, it's down the block and to the right, as I just did with my hand, they're going to point. They're going to have the tendency, more than likely, to point with their hand to repeat what they just said. So to the right to provide direction. And that's repeating is relatively self-explanatory. Perhaps not quite as much would be contradicting. And this is something that I hadn't really thought of before getting into this topic. And it's when you say something, but your nonverbal communication, your expression and your gestures work in a way to go exactly against that. So the exact opposite of what you're saying. The example which I'll give is just like, say your friend asked you your opinion on a piece of literature that you absolutely despised, and you wanted to, in a funny way, respond like sarcastically, and I think sarcasm goes hand in hand with this topic, oh, I just loved it, and you shake your head like I just did. Your nonverbal communication overrides your words of saying that you loved it by explaining to the true how your true feelings on the topic, like saying, he actually absolutely hated it if you looked at what I just said. And that kind of covers contradicting. The third function of nonverbal communication lies with substituting. Now, this one's really interesting to me because we're talking about like completely conveying a message with our gestures alone. So with substituting, we're talking about things like if you were asked how you were doing and you responded with this, that will get across you don't even have to say anything. That gets across the message, oh, you're doing A-okay. Or if you gave somebody a thumbs up, good job. Or the inverse of that, if you give them a thumbs down, not a good job, like bad job. Or even just moving your hands like this and saying, no way. You don't even have to say anything. Those gestures get across messages in and of themselves, and I think that's really, really interesting. The fourth of these functions is related to complimenting. Now, this is one that is near and dear to my heart because, this includes things like talking with your hands. So with complimenting, we're talking about the ways that our gestures and our facial expressions complement that which we're saying or conversing. Now, I think we can all relate to that example if, back in kindergarten, I remember when I was in kindergarten and we all got a little too rowdy and we were all a little too loud and the teacher put her finger up to her lips and she said, shh. We all understand that means to be quiet. And, we all became quiet. Most of the time. But, we got the general idea. The fifth of these functions is accenting. And now this is really interesting to me because this deals with that topic of how we say stuff, the tone of voice that I had spoken of previously. Now, with this, if you say something, oh, I love it, the way that your vocal cords are able to contract and produce a higher pitch emotionally charges that statement, and it provides it with like an improved meaning to the person receiving that message. Finally, the last function of nonverbal communication is to regulate ways and that includes ways by which we're able to encourage or discourage conversation with another. So if we're keeping our head down and we're looking at our phone, we're going to kind of not engage other people and we'll get that message across to others. But if we're making eye contact and we're being happy and smiling, other people will be inclined to approach us. That kind of concludes the topic of nonverbal communication, and I appreciate you watching this mini lecture. Thank you so much.